Hello, hello. Saturday Sound Farmer podcast time. And this time, this Saturday, I have not chosen a topic to talk about like in the previous weeks. Instead, I made a post and asked you guys if you had some questions or if you had a suggestion for a topic for today. And there were a bunch of different questions. And so I thought I can fit those into this live stream. And I'm sure that some of you guys come up with some other questions today here in the live chat. So feel free to post those there. I'm first going to try to go through the questions that came in on the post. And I have roughly 5 or 6 questions, I believe, that people asked. And they are all more or less related to farming, homesteading, and the sound farmer, what we do is, about a holistic approach. It's about everything. It's about our health. It's about our finances. It's about the land's health, our relationships, our lives, our faith. And the first question is not about farming or homesteading, but it's about my diet. So I'm gonna go to the questions I've posted. I've written down a few here so that you guys can see them. And if you guys will let me know again in the chat if you guys can hear me all right, I really appreciate that. And maybe let me know from where you're watching. It's always hard to try to find a time that works for everybody. We have most of our viewers in North America, but please, somebody let me know if you can hear me. By the way, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Rumble. Now, if you are watching this on Rumble, I cannot see your comments in the live chat. Please, I can look at the comments after, but if you have a question, want me to take it up, right now I can only do that from YouTube or Facebook in my streaming software. I hope that StreamYard soon fixes this so I can see this also from Rumble. I know a lot of people want that. Okay, so first request was, tell us more about your carnivore diet. By the way, hello everybody. Glad you are tuning in from all over the place again. So I have been on a carnivore diet for nearly 2 months again. This is the second time in my life that I have done this. The first time I did this, I believe, in 2019. And the first time I did it, I think I ended up doing it for 4 or 5 weeks, and it was amazing. I lost a lot of weight, but more so, my stomach issues that I pretty much have all the time, they went away. My bloatedness went away, and I felt very energetic. And I can't really tell you why I did not pursue the carnivore diet since then, but towards the end of 2022, both my wife and I were physically at a quite unhealthy state. We had mold, quite a lot of mold in the place where we were living. And we were at the outskirts of the second biggest city in Austria. I think the air was bad, the water was bad, we had the mold, and we were just not doing that well overall. There was a lot of gray fog in the area, and we were missing sunlight, and we were starting to gain weight a ton. And we both were not doing well, and so I was like, we really need to change something radically, and that includes everything. Often when we try to get healthy again, we try to change one thing. But for me, it's not just the carnivore diet, but it has been so many things. So where we live right now, we have amazingly clean air. We do not have any 5G or lots of radiation from like cell phone towers or something on us because we are quite rural. We have spring water from the mountain. But I have been on a carnivore diet since the 1st of January, and I've probably lost 20 pounds or something. And not just that, it's not just so much the weight loss, but it's my headaches are gone. The last few weeks and months where we lived in before we came here, I pretty much had headaches and migraines every day, also related to the mold issues we had. But that's gone. I have energy and strength again when I do my workouts. I stretch and work out every morning. And this is something since we were starting to have children, we had a really rough stretch there for several years with our children being quite close together. We had like 6 years or so where we didn't sleep through the night, and I just kept getting out of shape more and more with every child and kept gaining weight. And if you'd see a picture of me just, now, 3 months ago, I did not look good or healthy. And so what I've been eating is the focus has been on beef, okay? Because no matter what people tell you, beef is some of the most nutritious and nutrient dense food out there. And, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories or so-called conspiracy theories. I've heard that we're running out of those because they all seem to be coming true. I don't want to get into that, but all I'm saying is maybe the reason why they're telling you that it's bad is because it's good for you. The things that we're seeing currently are just horrible. Beef is amazing. It is super healthy, super nutritious, and grass-fed beef is the ideal. Purely 100% grass-fed and grass-finished, and amazing source of vitamin D, very nutritious, and that's the main part of my diet. Now, there are different opinions on what is carnivore really. There are people who do the lion's diet. That's just beef, 100% beef. And I know of people who have done that for 5 years, and they have healed their autoimmune diseases and everything from that. Then there are some people that say carnivore is just plain meat. For me, carnivore is other animal products as well. So you eat organ meat, but I also eat yogurt, Greek yogurt, specifically because it's lower in sugar and higher in protein and fat. I do eat cheese. I do eat eggs. I started to eat raw eggs a lot, and I feel amazing after eating raw eggs. So a lot of times when we cook stuff, we overcook it and we kill a lot of enzymes and vitamins and stuff. And we just need to overcome this scare that people have tried to push on us, don't eat this, don't eat that. And so that has been the main part of my diet, and I feel great. I feel better every day. I sleep better. And the main reason I'm doing this is because I was noticing that I cannot be there for my wife and my children the way that I want to, the way that I should, the way that they need me. And I need to change something. And I've tried so many things. The last few weeks and months of 2022, where I was getting worse and worse and worse, I was working out a lot and I was pushing myself, and I felt sick after because I was not well. And it's a healthy lifestyle starts in the kitchen. It starts with your diet. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And starving yourself with low calorie intake and all of that is just something that I don't think is sustainable long term and doesn't work for many people. And with a carnivore diet, there are so many people. If you go on different social networks, I have connected to lots of doctors and other people on Twitter through my Twitter account, which, by the way, you can follow me on that on there, that have helped thousands of people, hundreds and thousands of people with through the carnivore diet. So I can highly recommend, just give it a try. When I did it the first time in 2019, it felt really weird because everybody around you thinks, and what you have been told your whole life is, you're going to fall over dead if you eat too much red meat or if you eat too much salt. By the way, salt, I eat lots of salt. So I sweat a lot. I've always been somebody who loses a lot of fluids that way, and I lose a lot of minerals, a lot of salt and a lot of electrolytes that way. And this past summer, I just several times almost fainted, got shivers, all my muscles cramped. I drank lots of water in hot weather, and what that did is it even flushed out, and deprived me of electrolytes. So now I take electrolytes every time. Pretty much, I take a drink. I would think 80% of the times I take a drink, I take salt and electrolytes. And that alone has lifted my brain fog, my fatigue, all that's gone. Major important point. Check out the book. You can order it on Amazon. I believe it's called The Salt Fix and The Mineral Fix. I haven't gone through both of them yet. I got the Salt Fix and I follow the doctor who wrote it, and it's phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing. One of the main quotes from him is, don't blame salt for what sugar has caused. Okay. So yeah, that's enough about the carnivore diet. Okay. Next question that I got on the post: can you cover the topic of how to earn money by only running a homestead, 10 to 20 acre farm? And the comment went on to say that most people who seem to be doing that, they seem to be earning their money off of YouTube or something like that. So I want to deal with this question a little bit, because this is something that I feel very strongly about, and that I know a lot of people who want to go into homesteading, they like watching other homesteaders, and they like to learn the how-tos and all that. But how relevant are homesteaders who make their money off of YouTube? And we have done that to a certain extent in the past. Currently, that's very little. It's not very relevant to our income currently. But how relevant are people who do that to people who want to try to homestead? Because not every homesteader or farmer can have a YouTube channel. So this issue actually is what caused me to write my book, The Self-Sufficient Homestead. I wrote an ebook in 2019, or I launched it in 2019. It's called The Self-Sufficient Homestead. It's not currently for sale anymore, but it's part of the offers that we offer with The Sound Farmer. Depending on what you purchase, you get that book with it. But in that book, the book was all about creating revenue streams and extra income off of your homestead. That's what that book, the main purpose of that book was. And I wrote that because it was something that was dear to my heart. Now, I want to not take too long on this question, because this is something I could talk about for hours, because it's a very complex issue. But I want to address the question itself at first. Can you cover the topic on how to earn money by only running a homestead 10 to 20 acre farm? Now, my question is, what do you mean? What does that mean by only running a homestead? Because maybe the mistake lies in that kind of thinking. Like, what does that mean, only run a homestead? Because we have this typical way of thinking about, well, this is homesteading, this is farming, and this is not. Okay? And you guys know that I am a teacher of holistic management. I'm an associate educator with the Savory Institute, and I coach and train and teach people to manage holistically. And that is not moving around cows, okay? That can be part of it. But managing holistically is managing complexity and managing our land, our lives, and our finances together. That's what holistic management is. Now, when you think in those terms, when you think about managing holistically, and when you think about trying to combine and manage those areas indivisibly, then you quickly come to the understanding, since everything is connected and since you're managing everything, that revenue streams should, not just could, but should come from more than what we traditionally have thought of or perceived as, this is farming, this is homesteading. Okay. And we also need to stop to look down at people, or to judge people, or to say silly, unnecessary comments. And I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying I've seen people who have done this, who say, well, they are not really farming, or they are not really homesteading, or something. We all have a free market. Most of us have a free market. Most of us have human creativity, and we have opportunities to do things with our brains and with our time and with our money. And so we cannot blame when other people come up with creative ways to earn money. So I'm here to say you should not just look at what you or people traditionally have thought of, oh, this is homesteading, this is farming, but you should look at any opportunity your land can give. But more importantly, you should do a brainstorming and you should think about anything that is fun to you, that is in alignment with what you value the most, what you could picture doing. And that could be lots of things that are just indirectly connected to running some kind of livestock or vegetables or something. That's just really important to understand. I remember Alan Savory sharing, or my teacher was sharing about Alan Savory when I went through the holistic management trainings, that he once visited one of his clients on a farm, and they had this one part of the property that had just never produced well, and they didn't know what to do with it. And the guy was just thinking in his ways of like cattle and all that. And then Alan Savory came in, then he said, well, put a couple huts there, rent them out, and have some tourists come, and they will enjoy this view, they will enjoy this part of the land. And he did, and that is producing way more for that farmer, way more than any other agricultural enterprise on his property could have ever done. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I believe we should think in those terms, because when you live rural, when you live on the countryside, that's an asset you have that many people from the city want, right? You can create something there, a landscape or something that is for other people. Now, if you don't want people on your property, then don't. But what I'm saying is, the question, by only running a homestead, I believe it's possible, and I'm going to give you some ideas here for enterprises that are related to agriculture, okay? But I think there's no such thing as by just running a homestead. You can combine it with working from home. Maybe you're a graphic designer, maybe you are a carpenter, maybe you do want to go and work a few hours in town or something, right? Maybe you could offer some kind of room to somebody who rents it from you to offer a massage therapist to people, and they come to the farm and it's a relaxing environment. I don't know, do a brainstorming. I think you should absolutely not limit yourself to thinking it's just chickens, it's just ducks and pigs and all that. I think that's absolute harmful thinking, because land has so much value in general. In fact, the African Center for Holistic Management in Zimbabwe, the ranch that Alan Savory handed over to the African Center for Holistic Management, and is now one out of 2 training sites for holistic management worldwide. As training sites, there are hubs at many places, but those are the campuses of the Savory Institute. They run, I think, 400 cattle now. They want to increase, and up until now, they have never run the cattle there for commercial purposes. They ran the cattle there to manage the landscape, to heal the landscape, and they are making their money off of hunters and tourists coming, because there's so much abundant wildlife there. That's how they have made their money. Now, they've suffered greatly through the pandemic because it was all locked down and the flights didn't go. And now they're getting into commercial cattle farming even, but that has never been the point up until now. Yet they are holistic managers. So please don't limit yourself there. And it all starts with you writing your holistic context, with you understanding what you want, so that you can rule out things and stuff, but don't limit yourself. Now, in terms of agricultural enterprises, and I think that's maybe what this question was aimed to a little more, I know of people, they run 3 4 dairy cows. They make a full-time living off of it, direct marketing, all of it. They turn all the milk into yogurt, and they make a living off that. I have a documentary about them from the farm in Sweden. I know of people, they rent a 30-foot container, or have a 30-foot container on their property, and they grow mushrooms in there. They make 2 full-time incomes off of that. Okay, you can do specialty crops. In specialty crops lies a lot of money on smaller areas. Okay, you will never be able to make a living off of a homestead that's 10 to 20 acres with beef cattle. It would even be hard with some sheep for meat, right? But if you had a special kind of sheep breed that had extraordinarily amazing wool and hide, their hides, and you could turn that wool into yarn and sell that and offer workshops with that wool. You see, it's this kind of thinking that you have to do. But ultimately, it's what you want, Maybe you want to live on the homestead, and if you have a town job, part-time, fine. It's whatever works for you and for your context, for your holistic context. That's the difference. So I don't want to spend more time on this question now, because we have to move on. How do you deal with rough weather, and do you monitor it to plan the days? I mean, absolutely. There are the routines that you have to do on your farm or homestead that you have to do no matter what the weather is. But you have to plan ahead even for your routines. If you get a heat wave, make sure, they all have shade, and the chickens in the chicken tractor don't get overheated, for example. If you get flooding, or you are in the season where you get maybe heavy rainfall events, make sure that, the areas that are, for example, in danger of flooding, that you don't have anything there that could cause potential trouble. I do monitor the weather a couple times a day, just because I'm interested in it, and it helps me to plan out everything. It helps me to plan out visits to customers. It helps me to plan out when I will do certain things outside, and helps me to prepare. Now, there are certain things you have to do no matter what the weather, but it is really important to do that. Now, you should set up your farm in a way that no matter what the weather brings, it'll work, right? That you have stuff close by when a windstorm comes, that you can secure stuff, that even when the flooding comes, or if it comes unexpectedly, that you never build up your land or your farm in a way that would harm it. So that's a quick answer to the question. I'd love to know how you manage genetics in a permaculture setting. So I feel like this question is, I have a little bit too little information here. I'm not really sure. Okay, genetics for what? Is it for vegetables? Is it for trees? Is it for livestock? Is it, for chicken? Or, I'm not sure. But for me, I don't look at genetics as something that's, that needs to be focused on permaculture or organic farming or conventional farming or whatever. Ultimately, when I manage holistically, I have to find for myself the quality of life I want to live, and I have to find for myself the future landscape, the future resource space, my landscape. And I want to align myself with that. And what that means is, if I, if my holistic context tells me that I do not want to use chemicals to keep my animals healthy, for example, or that I don't want to have to bottle feed lambs and calves because their mothers reject them or they're too weak, or if I want to have to feed lots of grain to keep a cow healthy because it's such a big animal that the cow can't make it off of grass alone. If I've defined that I don't want those things, then that'll rule out pretty quickly certain type of genetics in animals, and I will simply not purchase those. Let me tell you one thing that I noticed, um, or that we experienced here while in Austria when it comes to genetics. So those of you guys who have been following us faithfully know that 2 years ago or so, we got some South Down baby doll sheep on the farm where we thought we'd stay for a long time in Austria. And those are super cute, easy to fence. They don't eat the bark off of trees, so that you can use them in orchards and vineyards to graze there. Great thing, but they are super rare, very limited breeding stock available here. And they are, because of that, super expensive. So you pay like 500 euros, equivalent to $500 in the States, worth for a male, and 800 for a female. So because the main point for us was for grazing, and we thought we'd get some females later on that farm, the decision was made, not by us, but by other people. Well, we'll buy 5 males. Okay, so calculate that, 5 times 500 for 5 sheep. That's a lot of money. And so they came to the farm. I was really excited about them because everybody was telling me amazing. So what happened? They all came with crazy parasites and worms. So one died from that, even though we gave it medicine, which is something that I don't want to do, really. Another one had an unfortunate event and broke a leg. It had to be butchered. So you all of a sudden ended up eating a sheep that, with the cost of purchase and butchering and everything, you ended up eating 600 euros worth of lamb. So what I realized fairly quickly is, don't do that. Because for me, for my holistic context, it's important that animals are robust and healthy, and that they can survive by themselves, that they can give birth by themselves, that they can stay healthy. And management has some part of that. But if you already get a breed that costs so much money, and then it's so limited, you would never say, out of those 5 males, I'll just take this one for breeding now, because you just get rid of $2,000 worth of sheep, and the meat of it is maybe worth 400 or less. And so you don't do that. And so what it does is it makes you make bad decisions. You want to have sheep, and look, Greg Chudy, when he started with his parasite-resistant sheep, I've heard Joel Salatin say that in the beginning, he for like 5 years or something, he had 90% loss as he culled those sheep from the flock that were not handling it. Now you might think, oh, that's cruel or that's bad. No, it's amazing. It's awesome, because what he did is he created parasite-resistant sheep that are now healthy. He did a favor to that sheep breed. He did a favor to nature. He did a favor to humanity by doing that. And the problem is, and this is also a problem with so many homesteaders, is that a lot of animals are kept hobby style. And you do everything you can to keep an animal alive, even if that means, it means giving it medicine, and you weaken its immune system. You make the parasite resistance. You make the sheep lose its ability to have natural immunity and build that up. And then there's poor breeding. there's very poor natural selection. Every lamb or calf gets bottle fed and you know, nourished up to health again. And you can do that, but never breed with an animal like that. So that is my approach to genetics. I'm pretty tough on that. And so even on this farm here right now, with where we have 15 head of Highland cattle right now, there are eight cows. You know, if it was up to me, there were maybe 2 or 3 of which I would continue breeding. So it's a little, you know, you need to see and understand what is it you want, because if you continue to, you know, let the chicks die that don't make it. I mean, obviously check on your management practices, but if you keep raising them and then they could spread their genetics, that's not a good thing. And so it's not so much how you handle or manage genetics in a permaculture setting. It's more of like what works for your holistic context, like what is important to you. And so I don't want to have a genetics of any animal on my farm that, you know, requires my help to keep it well and alive in you know, where others around it, other animals in the herd or in the flock, stay healthy just fine. Okay. So I have a couple more questions here that were asked previously. So establishing pasture for newbies. Putting out hay on existing pasture is great to get bare spots back in good condition, but nobody relies on that to seed a whole area of new pasture ground. Okay, how do you do that? Well, I would say to a certain extent, this is a one-on-one decision, depending on the unique situation that you have. Okay. What does that mean, an area of a new pasture? Like, what was it before? Was it a field and you with monocultures and it's plowed? And what do you do now? Was it forest before that you cleared? So, you know, we would need a lot of background information on that. But in general, it is important to also understand what climate are we in. Okay. In holistic management, we have something called a brittleness scale, right? We understand the term brittle. If you pick up leaves and they're so dry and they crumble in your hand, you know, that's a very brittle leaning environment. A non-brittle environment, the most non-brittle you can get would be a rainforest. The most brittle environment would be a desert. And so you need to understand where on the brittleness scale your land is. So Austria, for example, or Tennessee, where we want to move to, is a non-brittle landscape. Okay, that means that throughout the year, moisture is readily available at the soil surface so that decomposition can happen. Okay, things can break down. There's enough moisture that microorganisms can survive at the soil surface and break down plant and organic material. In the non-brittle leaning environments, you can still have a lot of precipitation, but it's often limited to, you know, a rainy season or monsoon season or something like that. And moisture at the soil surface is, in a brittle environment, is not readily available all year round. So only during the moisture months of the year can biological decay happen at the soil surface level. But in the remaining parts of the year, in brittle leaning environments, you are dependent upon livestock, ruminants, because the moisture is in their tummies. That's where the breakdown of organic material happens in those environments during those dry seasons, because it cannot happen by itself at the soil surface level. And so the livestock is absolutely essential in brittle leaning environments for the land's health. Now, with this bare ground and starting a pasture and covering it up, it really depends on, are you in a brittle leaning environment or are you in a non-brittle leaning environment? Okay. In general, in most places, even if it has been a corn or soy field or something for many years, there are so many seeds still in the ground, even in forests. Okay. Even in forests, there are a lot of seeds, not just from trees, but also grasses and forbs and legumes in the ground still. And you need to then learn about your land. You need to look at it, and you need to be, um, you know, what is it? Where is my land at, and where do I want it to go? Okay, so you want pasture. In general, forest, the soil in forests is more fungi based, and everything in the forest floor is focused on more woody species. Okay, and in grasslands it's more sugar based, so to speak. Okay, and that's why, for example, Greg Judy, when he turns forests into pasture, he unrolls hay there to also feed carbon to the microbes and kind of get the shift a little bit. But animal impact is something that I would say is probably the absolutely most beneficial in turning any ground back to a thriving pasture. And with animal impact, I mean anything but the grazing is what we would call animal impact. Okay. You have the grazing, which is the mere eating of the plant, and then the animal impact is the manure, the urine, the saliva, the hoofs, the trampling. All that is what we would consider animal impact. And that is absolutely essential to break the surface of bare ground, to stimulate the seeds and the seed bank in the ground, to add, to trample down existing plant material and create litter, to add manure and urine, to add those microbes to the soil, and to speed up the mineral cycle, the recycling of the minerals back to the soil so they get available for the plants. Those are the things that's very essential. And then how that looks in your particular situation is something you have to decide on a one-to-one basis. Like I said, it depends on what brittleness you're in. It depends on what was the field before, how big is it, and so on. And the thing is, in holistic management, we don't dismiss any tools. You take up a seeder and seeds up to decision making. You do bale grazing. You do unrolling hay. Or scattering seeds on top. Or like anything can come up for decision making, whether it's technology or the use of livestock and so on. And then you see what fits best with my holistic context, what is in alignment with my holistic context, and you go through the context checks as we do in holistic management, and that way you can ensure that whatever decision you take now to turn this piece of land into pasture, that is in alignment with your holistic context, and you monitor so that you get there the quickest. Okay, we have one more question that was asked to me before this stream started, and then I'll take a couple questions after that from the live chat, okay? With all the air and water issues as of late, I'd like to know more about gardening in high tunnels, raised beds, etc. Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to choose what, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but what fits with your holistic context. If you're scared of water and air pollution, well then, by all means, being in a high tunnel, you're protected from the rain. There are other issues. You would have to do the research. Like you said, you'd like to know more about it. Well, you would have to do some more research, because there are pros and cons to raised beds and high tunnels. That's why some people put high tunnels on rails and they make them movable. so that the ground under it or in it can get exposed to the sun and to rain. And even if you have the high tunnel, you still need to get your water from somewhere, right? So where are you going to get your water from for your raised beds or from your high tunnels? I think that high tunnels and raised beds can be right for some people in some circumstances, but you need to understand the pros and cons and everything that comes with it. It's just very important. Um, you know, I think raised beds and high tunnels lean more towards the use of technology, which is not bad, and in some places that's very good. But I myself have learned to become very slow and thoughtful before I choose technology of some sort in my as as my action plan, because often it has consequences and side effects that we can't really foresee beforehand, you know. And I mean, we can do a lot of things, but when the air gets poisoned and the water gets poisoned, it becomes pretty difficult. And honestly, I'd say maybe some choices there have to be the location you choose, but there's only that much you can do. I mean, when that happens, I heard that, what happened with the train in East Palestine there, or Palestine, or whatever it's called. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Um, in the States, you know, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's horrible. It's horrible how it was being dealt with or is being dealt with, but I heard my wife shared with me, she saw it on Instagram, I think, some people that are um, homesteading there, they don't know if they'll ever be able to get back on their land and what they're going to do about it. And if everything they have worked for in the past years and decades is gone, I mean, horrible, tragic. It's unbelievable. But our like my parents' farm in Sweden when we were there, some of you guys know who have followed us. We um, faced the government taking the land from us because of mining. That has been lifted again, so my family in Sweden is fine. But there are some things that are bad. And look, this is what I want to say to this. There are a lot of things that we can do. Okay, we can change our diet, like I've talked about in the stream. We can choose the location we want to live at. We can surround ourselves with like-minded people. We can have sound farming methods that create healthy food and a good, healthy soil and landscape. There are a lot of things we can do, but ultimately, there's always the chance and the risk of life throwing us a curveball and hitting us hard, and of unforeseen catastrophes and things coming our way. Always. There are things that are out of our control. There are things that we can't even blame the globalists and World Economic Forum for. Okay. there are things that that everybody living on this earth is powerless against. And that, for me, is where my faith becomes so important. Because who do we trust ultimately? Where is our hope ultimately? And guys, let me tell you, I am all about, I've talked so much about holistic management here. I've talked so much about animal welfare, raising them well. I'm talking so much about healing the soil, healing the land and everything. But guys, ultimately, for me, my hope is in something bigger and someone bigger, something greater, and it's an eternity. I'm not ashamed of saying that. And I don't like I I say that here. My hope is in eternity. My hope is in my Savior. My hope is in God, in Jesus, because I know there could come things at any time that can pull away the rug from under my feet. We have been there before, where we have been free falling, and we try to make the best decisions we can and everything, and then something horrible happens. We have been there before, my wife and I, and many people are there. So, and the thing is, when horrible things happen, unforeseen things, then all of a sudden many people cry out, how can God allow this, or how can this happen, and stuff. And I mean, better late than never, I guess, but the wise person would really think about these things now, because the truth stays a truth, not first when things get bad, but at all times. And my hope is not in homesteading and healthy food and holistic management, and to that extent they are all good and beneficial and can help to a certain extent, but ultimately there needs to be more. And that's why my wife and my statement of purpose in our holistic context is to know God and to make God known, because that's why we exist. What does holistic management and saving the soils and agriculture and civilization help if there's no purpose beyond that? Why are we trying to save anything? So, that's just why I want to say there's only that much we can do. And if I have to think about, okay, I have to protect myself from the air and water, well, then maybe the only choice I have is to move to a remote location where I still have water and air that's better than in Manhattan or Hong Kong or LA or Berlin or whatever, right? Where there's less 5G and less of all that stuff. But what if a train derails and chemicals burn there? What if the nuclear power plant 100 miles away breaks and blows my way? What if an earthquake comes? There's so many things that could happen. Don't put all your hope and your trust in your homestead. Please don't. Because any earthly goods will only last for a short time. Okay? So these are the questions that I got on the post that I made, and we have about 7 minutes left before the full hour, and I'm gonna go through some of the questions. So those of you guys who chatted in the very beginning of the stream with a question and I missed that, I'm not gonna go back in the live chat now. Please repeat the question, type it in the chat again, and I'll see if I can get to it. Okay, I'm gonna look at the most recent ones here now, so I don't have to scroll back all the way. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. Okay, I see one question here. Why did you pick Highland cattle instead of something that was polled? I remember one of your previous cows was borderline nuts, and with horns, I see it as an extra danger and management issues. Yes. The scary horns can be a pro and a con because it keeps people out of your pastures when they see cattle with horns like that. It can definitely be a management issue because of corals or walk paths in with fences. What I've seen is that Highland cattle never have a problem coordinating their horns. They know exactly how to walk sideways through a door without hitting their horns to the frame. When I brought the Highland cow to the butcher here a week ago, she walked sideways through the walkway there. I have never gotten hurt or hit by a horn. They know exactly where they have their horns. However, I will most likely not choose Highland cattle again. I made a video about that a couple months ago, but also more than that, the problem is that many farms here in Europe, and I won't be in Europe anymore, hopefully. We'll be in the States soon, we hope. But here in Europe, many butcher shops cannot legally take Highland cattle anymore because there are coming new regulations that require them to fixate each cattle and to do things, and then they say any animal with long horns, whether it's Highland cattle or something else, they can't do that legally. So that's a problem my parents have now in Sweden. So I left them a bunch of Highland cows before I moved. They have continued to breed with them, and they wanted to butcher them, but the butcher says we cannot take them anymore. They've shut us down in regards to Highlands and also pigs. And they're fighting this in court, but it's very difficult. And my dad now bought a belted Galloway bull, and the calves will be polled. They will inherit that gene from the belted breed. And Highland cattle have unique characteristics and are extremely interesting for the genetics. They have high quality meat, and all that is important. But I don't need to have Highland cattle. Where I will look around what's available and what genetics are available when we come to the States, and then I will choose a breed based on that. Okay, right now we're just farm sitting. We're just farm sitting on a farm that had Highland cattle. Okay, so question, did you look up Hungarian yellow chickens? I think I looked it up. I think you mentioned it in a previous stream some weeks ago, and I think I looked it up real quick then, but I haven't looked into it more since then. Okay, I haven't done so. So if you have like a good link or some good information on it, maybe just send me an email, swedishhomestead@gmail.com, and then I will look at it more. Let's see. Are there any other questions for me? I'll take one more question here before I head out. Scrolling a little bit through the live stream now. It's really awesome. You guys are from all over the place. Really cool. Guys, anybody have another question before we wrap it up here? We have been at it for an hour. Okay, well, if nobody has another question, then I'm happy, and I guess you guys are happy too. I really enjoyed this hangout time here, answering some of your questions. I hope it was helpful. Maybe I could wrap up with this. So a lot of you guys have been wondering about my visa and where we're at. So first of all, so many people are asking, why would you want to move to the States and blah, blah, blah. And everybody has different feelings about it. And look, guys, my wife and my kids are Americans. And my wife has sacrificed, and my children have sacrificed a lot, having lived abroad here, my wife has been here now for 17 years or something in Europe, and she is American, and she wants to go back to her family, and she wants to be closer to friends, and it is her culture, and we're really looking forward to moving back and living closer. And we applied for my visa in 2021, November 2021. Can you believe that? And we thought this would happen within a few weeks. And now it's 2023. 2023. And we are closer than ever before, because we are now, what is it, 15 months closer. No, but the long thing, what took so long was the processing at USCIS. Now we are at the National Visa Center. That should go much quicker. And we are hoping, still hoping and praying that we'll be able to move let's see, spring, early summer. But there are some things, and I cannot share about that right now. And, you can pray for us, but there are some things, if they don't change here within the next couple of months, I might have to start a whole nother legal battle for my visa, and it could take till the fall, which we are not hoping for. But it has all to do with the pandemic and extra laws that have come through this all, and that were added to the whole visa process within the last 2 years. And unless those get lifted, I am looking at a whole nother challenge coming up here, that might easily take a few thousand in lawyer fees and another 6 months or so to fight with an uncertain outcome. So if that gets lifted, which we are hoping, that gets changed, we might be able to come in April, May, or June, which would be very exciting. So let's see. I think I got one more thing. Your decision to move. I know you said earlier your health was deteriorated, but did you both pray and feel leading as to where to go and when to go? Absolutely. I mean, we prayed and felt led to leave Sweden, to hand over the church that I was pastoring there, and to come down to Austria. And we thought we'd stay here forever, but it became very clear to us through many different things, and God speaking to us, and Bible verses as well, that we felt and understood this was for a certain time, that we were able to use in many ways, especially for us to prepare ourselves, to train ourselves, and all that. And we had taken on this farm here when we first moved to Austria, where we thought we'd be forever, and then we got kicked out. It broke apart there, and that was very devastating for us. But looking back, we are very, very thankful for that, because now we are free to take the step that we feel like God has shown us. And so we do all of this very prayerfully. Okay, guys. So yeah, I think that's it, guys. I thank you, by the way, JJ Max, for the super chat. That's very kind of you. Hey, I want to do something that I don't think I've ever done on my YouTube channel or on a live stream, especially. I want to finish my Q&A with a prayer, because I just feel like, for some reason, today's Q&A ended up going way more towards that direction. and that wasn't planned. It just ended up being like that. So, hey, let me pray for you guys in the world, okay? Heavenly Father, I want to thank you. I want to thank you that we have you, that we can talk to you, that we can come to you for help and wisdom. And I want to thank you for this channel. I want to thank you for this audience, for the people. And I pray that everybody will be blessed as they watch this, blessed from the knowledge, from the community. And I pray that you would reveal yourself to them in a more stronger and powerful way. And you see every challenge that each of them individually has. And I pray that you would reveal yourself to them. Your word says that if we draw near to you, you will draw near to us. And I pray that they would do that as well. Thank you for everything you're giving us, for the freedoms we can still enjoy. And we pray, Lord, that we would stay steadfast throughout the struggles and challenges. I pray for those who are suffering, who are grieving, who are going through hard times, be with them. For all those people right now worldwide who are affected by war, by famine, by pollution, by earthquakes, be with them and help them. And I pray that those of us who can would have the heart to ask you in what capacity we can help them. We pray for your blessing on our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this time. We'll see you. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.